Well, it is time for our first hot topic. And last night was the deadline to register to vote in Florida, but a sudden spike in voter registration across the U.S. might be thanks to one celebrity. Taylor Swift broke her usual political silence on Instagram to endorse Tennessee Democratic candidates and to urge fans to get out and vote. More than 166,000 registrations were made in the following 2 days of her post, with 42% being between the ages of 18 and 24. What do you think about her using her reach to get people to vote, to get young people to vote?
I think that's our duty, to do whatever we can to make the world better, to give more people a voice. So I think she just fulfilled her duty. So you've got to do what you can do. We may be only able to influence 1 or 2 people, but she was able to influence a lot more. Now I just hope those people read about, learn about those candidates, and choose very, very carefully.
Yeah, that is a good point, because registering to vote is the first step, but then staying educated on what what the candidates' stands are on different issues is the bigger responsibility.
Absolutely. I remember in the past looking down that list and saying, I think I've heard that name before, so pushing the button. I'm a lot more careful now.
What do you think about, I know sometimes there's some criticism of a pop star or an actor giving political endorsement. On one end of the debate, people will say, well, just be a performer. We don't need to hear your stand on things. Do you think that she's overstepping by supporting specific candidates?
I don't know what she would be overstepping, because it's her career. I would not take my political advice from Taylor Swift. We have very different lives. We have very different needs. So I wouldn't let her influence who I voted for unless she knew something that I didn't, some inside information. But I'm just glad she's bringing awareness.
And
So am I,
yeah, for your 2 girls, I mean, are you proud that she can be a role model for them?
I think it's important. And in voting, I always took it for granted. I thought it was mandatory, because it is mandatory in Brazil. So we don't have a choice. You have to vote. It is your duty as a citizen. And so when I became a citizen here, I immediately registered to vote.
Good.
I take my girls with me, and that's what I've been doing since I was 16, because we start voting at 16.
I can remember the first time I voted.
Yeah.
I can still remember that, because I was so proud.
Yes.
It meant you were an adult,
Yes.
and you've got something to say, and people will listen.
Absolutely.
Well, I'm happy to see that your girls can see how important it is to you. And when you think back the number of people that could not vote and fought for the right to vote, it should,
Absolutely.
it's
Yes,
not
especially for
mandatory, but
women.
you
Yes.
will be socially pressured and shamed if you don't vote at this point.
My mother could remember when women were not allowed to vote. So we are lucky to live in this day now, but let's just take advantage of it.
Yes, I agree. Well, college students have relied on a cup of coffee to get through an early morning class. But what if they could get that coffee for free? A cafe at Brown University is letting students pay for their coffee by filling out a form with basic information: names, phone numbers, email addresses.
And of course, college students are now picking out their early morning classes, and there is a cafe that is giving out free coffee if you will let them put your name and all of your information in, your email address, all of those things. So that is very worrying to many of us. The way the coffee shop can target ads in their store now approximately goes to their audience and to the students. Should the students give up their personal information for $1, which is what that coffee would cost, would you give up your personal information and let them come into your website and into your email for just a cup of coffee? What do you think? Not me.
I normally would say I would do anything for free coffee, because I love coffee, but I would like to know what they're using my information for. Absolutely.
And what they're using for today could be very different from 5 years from now. And once they're in, they're in. So sometimes for what we want at the moment, we'll give up an awful lot and then regret it for years and years to come.
It's true, and I think that we could also be teaching kids at a young age, like, oh yeah, what's your personal information worth? Sure, $1, that's fine. That's where this story makes me a little bit nervous, just because, yes, it's the same information that we are giving away on Facebook, but now we're doing it in exchange for a product, and all of a sudden, I don't know. Maybe it just makes us realize that our data is what people are after in many times.
Yes, and why do they want it? Mine is not that interesting. It's very boring, so it's not for entertainment.
No.
It's something much more important. So I would tell my kids, don't do it.
Yes. All right. Well, and thanks, Linda, for jumping in. We had a quick mic issue, but we seem to be back in order.
It's the storm.
Yes.
It's the storm.
There you
We're
go.
going to blame the hurricane for everything.
Well, parents have many tough jobs tough hands-on jobs, managing homework, activity schedules, etc. But experts say one of the most important with lifetime impact is being the gatekeeper of a child's diet. Nutritionists say the feeding style with the most positive health outcome is known as an authoritative feeding style, kind of like love with limits. The parent sets rules but still considers the child's preferences. Experts say this teaches them to eat a variety of foods, be selective about sweets, and control how much they eat. When you step back and think about it, teaching a child how and what to eat has incredible impact on their life. Now, I will confess, I am not a parent. I've never had to force a child to eat, but you both have had to do it. Does this approach work?
Well, to a certain extent it does.
Sometimes.
Because the thing that we all want most is what our mother made. And you taste what somebody else's mother made and think, oh, that's awful. But my stepdaughter, or my daughter-in-law is a doctor. She's Persian. And she said when her baby was born, she will think that broccoli is candy. Hasn't quite worked out that way. And yet she controls everything the little girl eats. And yet she still will go around a party and say, could I have your dessert? Could I have your dessert? How's it working out with your girls?
It's difficult, when you try to impose limits, and I try to model, eating healthy for my girls as well. I'm actually pretty lucky. Olivia, as the oldest, she's very adventurous in her taste, and I think it's because we travel so much. So she likes trying new food, which is not easy with kids. They always want, their mac and cheese or pasta or plain food, and you can't always get that when you're traveling.
Yes, and I think a lot of it is they like plain food. They don't really like spices, and like we do, we develop that like.
We do, and I think exposing them early is the key, because I notice them being way more open now.
That's great, and I think they will thank you for that for years to come, because I know my brothers are very picky eaters, and in adulthood they've discovered other foods and said, why didn't you tell me how great this is? So that you're doing a good thing.
I never ate tomatoes, and I told my kids, oh, tomatoes are awful.
Really?
And they both come to me later and said, tomatoes are great. Why didn't you tell us that? So I still get that a lot. Why didn't you tell me I would like
all
tomatoes?
the good things you did, and that's what they'll remember.
Oh, they'll never forget that.
Well, experts warn that flu season is off to an early start, and some parents are taking extra steps to protect their kids. The latest parenting trend is to attach a sign to a baby's car seat, telling people to keep their germy paws to themselves and off the baby. The signs read, "Please look, don't touch," or "Your germs are too big for me." Infants younger than 6 months cannot get a flu shot. What do you think about these signs? Do you think they're rude, or are they reasonable?
How big of a problem is that, people touching babies who are out in public like that? Now, my daughter-in-law, again, did not take her children out until they were over 6 months old because she really worried about that. But I think it's the germs we just get, not the germs of the baby being touched by strangers.
Do you think the sign is going too far? Do you think, this is a way of stopping people? Because every once in a while you'll see a handsy. I don't want to say it's a grandma, but you'll see see a stranger in public just go to touch someone's child.
I've never done that.
I've never used the signs, and I think I had to learn how to be comfortable with just saying, like, can you please not touch her? And just
because
say it in a nice way.
If the person is doing that, they're not a real good friend of yours anyway.
Right,
so.
Exactly.
So you have to protect your kid.
I mean, I have a dog, and I'm not trying to compare a child to a dog, but when people go to touch her, she's a biter. So I will just, I lean and lean away until I eventually just give them my shoulder. So maybe I'll make a little sign.
Don't touch Lulu.
And welcome back. Holiday travel is just around the corner, and airlines are trying to make us more comfortable, but maybe they don't want us to be this comfortable. So airplane restroom lines can get long, but one parent decided she couldn't wait for the potty. So she got out the porta potty for her toddler and allowed her to use it in the aisle of the plane. Then she got defiant for flight attendants when she was asked to stop. An interesting debate surfaced on social media. Some people found it vile and disgusting, according to their posts, but some said, lay off, it's a toddler. She may have been avoiding a worse accident. All right, what do you think? You both have had to travel with young kids.
Well, I think you double diapers or pull-ups. You can't carry along a potty, but you know this is going to happen. And you can't, first of all, the toddler can't wait like the rest of us can. So you have to be sure you've got a lot of diapers on there.
Absolutely, that's what we used to do. And we've traveled with our kids since they were babies. And of course, when they're getting potty trained, the moment you sit on the plane, they're like, I need to go to the bathroom. We're like, you can't now, we have to wait.
Yeah, well, I was traveling with Kathy once when she was a little baby, and she was fussy getting on, so I just grabbed some chocolate-covered raisins and gave her one. And she went and spit it into the lap of the man in the next seat, and he was asleep. So my dilemma, should I reach down and get the chocolate out of his lap, or should I wake him up and say, I'm sorry, my daughter spit chocolate in your lap? I woke him up. He was furious, demanded first class, and I've never gotten over that.
Wow.
Well, I mean, I guess that was a safer choice than the alternative. Excuse me, sir.
I would have gotten thrown off the plane.
My mom always taught me if there was a child either having a tantrum or something, just be patient. Don't stare. Don't stare at the parent. Obviously, I think this is less than ideal that they have to drop the potty down. But what are you going to do? You know, I don't think there was a good way out of this. We're going to be talking more travel stories as we come up in the next coming weeks, coming up to the holidays.